Hi everybody, and welcome back to Open Source Tonight. It's Vincent. I want to apologize for the live stream that went out recently that had technical difficulties, but we're going to get right into talking about Wayland. So Wayland is a display server, asterisk, not exactly, kind of. Basically, Wayland is a protocol, and there is, quote, a Wayland server, but basically what happens is your desktop, like there's going to be like a compositor, so like GNOME's got a compositor built in, KDE, etc. And what happens is that with both of these, you're going to get no screen tearing. Hello, that's wonderful. Is Wayland ready for prime time? Depends on what software you're using, depends on what desktop you're using, depends on what your needs are. So let's talk about that. If you're doing screen recording, something like OBS works fine. If you're using a hardware switcher like I do a lot, the ATEM switchers from Blackmagic, they work fine. If that you're using Simple Screen Recorder and some other tools, they are Xorg only. They are X11 systems only, presently. So, and there is still at this point, like I said, from a screen recording standpoint, there's things like that that are, I would argue, standing in the way. It's getting better. We've got things like Pipewire, and I would argue that's really the future, just to have everything be Pipewire. That's where we should be going with this. So hopefully things like Simple Screen Recorder will be updated in the future. It's a really good tool. That being said, if you're not going to be screen recording, and if I remember right, things like Discord works with Wayland now, screen recording. If you're not going to be screen recording though, or you're using like something like OBS that supports screen recording on Wayland, no problem, then guess what? I think for most people, you're probably fine. That's probably the one use case these days that's still an issue. Okay, I'm not a video game person, but I've heard that there's some video games that might not work under Wayland yet. I assume that's probably true, but I don't know. The video game folks, you can let me know in the comments. Anyway, that being said, personally, as somebody that doesn't play video games and I'm willing to use OBS, I can use Wayland right now for the most part. There's a catch. I am using a system right now, a custom build PC. And by the way, yes, that was before everything got really expensive, like right before. I had no idea. But apparently I got lucky getting stuff just right before it got to be insane. Anyway, needless to say, that'll be the last system I do that for a while. But that system is using a NVIDIA graphics card. It works really good with DaVinci Resolve, and I use DaVinci Resolve. So I picked NVIDIA. Here's the thing. NVIDIA does have drivers for Wayland. They do exist. But they do not ship them in Debian 13 Trixie presently. Now, could I, for example, install them outside of the repos? Yes. I don't really want to do that. In my experience, doing that is asking for trouble. So I have chosen to not do that. Plus, DaVinci Resolve, in my experience, at least in the past, when I've tried to use it under X-Wayland, it has issues when I have tried to do it. Hopefully that's getting better, but for right now, that seems to be the problem. And if you try to run it on regular Wayland by itself, it doesn't work, or at least it didn't a while back. I haven't tested it super recently, so maybe they fixed that in the last maybe few months. Who knows? That being said, Wayland for almost everybody, I think, is there. But there is another catch. Not all desktops are ready for Wayland. If you're using Cinnamon, they are working on it, but it's not ready yet. If you are using XFCE, I believe they're also working on it, but it's not ready yet. Mate, I know, is working on it, but it's not ready yet. So basically, if you're not on certain things, like Wayfire's there, it's only Wayfire. Like, that's all it is. It's a basic Wayland compositor. Of course, it's going to be Wayland ready. If that you're using something like, I think LXQT can do Wayland now. And if you're using things... if you're using things like, obviously, GNOME and KDE, those are ready. I would argue if you are going to use Wayland, pick KDE or GNOME 3, because they are the ones that are the most ready for prime time. As far as desktops, in my experience, if you're going to use Wayland, personally, I'm a GNOME user, so it all worked out for me, but depending on what you're using, this could be a problem. So, should you switch to Wayland? Well, considering a lot of distros have already defaulted to it, depending on what your desktop environment is, graphic drivers and such are, you may already be using it and not know it. And if you are using it, let me know what your thoughts is. Personally, I think it's great. I've got it on my laptop because I don't really use an NVIDIA card in there, and everything else works for me. I'm also not editing on there either, right? But for you, maybe it's not time. I have to say, out of every system I've ever played with Wayland on, I think it is still the best on Intel integrated graphics. That's just my thing. I think I may have said that in the video I did about Wayland in the past. Maybe not. But like I said, I want to know your thoughts, so please do leave them in the comments, everybody. And I guess that pretty much covers it. Thanks for watching Open Source tonight, everybody. And I'll see y'all again soon. Goodbye, everybody.
And action.